This is the UX Institute podcast, and I'm Mark Swaine, founder of UXI. In this podcast, I interview UX and product leaders from around the globe. Today's pod will be a little different. Today, I'm sharing a thought leadership interview. Whether you're a UX professional, a startup founder, or a developer, this interview provides deep insights into UX and product strategies, industry challenges, and emerging trends. Join me for an engaging conversation that unravels the mysteries of the UX world and its transformative potential for businesses of all sizes. Key topics I cover are UX and startups, SaaS, developing deeper personalized SaaS experiences, innovation culture, and trends in UX. Make sure to stick around for the full interview as I deliver some hard truths and realities for UX and product practices for companies of all sizes. If you have any questions about what you hear in this interview, we will be happy to chat. Please reach out to the UXI team. Now, let's get into the interview.
Mark Swaine, the UX guy, welcome to Dublin Tech Talks.
Thanks for having me, Gavin.
You're founder of the UXinstitute.com, head of product for Elstone, and a pretty good UX consultant by all constraints.
Yeah, I've been going quite a while in the business, put it that way. Starting to feel it.
Yeah, aren't we all? So how'd you get into UX? Like, was it, so I was having a look at your profile. It seems to be something you've been passionate about since day dot. So is it something that you thought when you started, this would be your career forever? Or how did you kind of get into the space?
Geez, I've done so much in the past. So how will I build it up quickly? I got into UX in the early days in website design, back as far as leaving college back then when Flash was actually a thing.
Good old HTML.
And after that, good old HTML and Dreamweaver and all that stuff. And post that, working with web design agencies in my very early career, doing lots of big projects, actually. Consulting projects for the likes of Diageo, Pernod Ricard. They were bringing me in to build big interactive experiences for their brands across Europe and different. I had some amazing projects and jobs, given I was such a junior, but I was so passionate about it. And I was so deep in design. I come from probably quite a creative background. I play a lot of guitar, grew up on guitar and art and design and all that stuff. I was naturally going to segue into either music college or design college. It was one or the other. I got into London School of Music to do guitar and singing. I chose to take the design route. There might be a safer career.
There's no career in music.
So I picked that and moved on and went to college, design college, went out of that, started in web agencies, worked my way up. When we get to the launch of the iPhone, 2007-8 time, started up to then, been building and designing a gazillion websites from a UX, but trying to drive research in UX with brands like Fuji and even Lily O'Brien's chocolates at the time, maybe, right back then when they were
and was there demand for it then, or was it just something that you
There was
felt?
Demand and understanding for good UI and clean design. There was not demand for customer-driven research to drive experiences. No. That was an education piece that I, over time, started to hammer in home. The more I got better and educated at it and querying why I was designing what I'm designing. Who have we spoken to? Is this even correct? What the hell am I doing? So up until then, iPhone time, started into loads of native apps, iOS, Android, all that stuff, kicked off design and built a gazillion of those as I went on through the years. Got really bored in Ireland, to be honest, in terms of opportunities. SaaS companies weren't bubbling up at that time, right? It was only 2012, 13 onwards. So myself and my wife headed off to Toronto and worked over there with some of the grandfather banks, worked with startups, developing new products. I was designing and building out Microsoft tablet and phone banking apps for RBC Bank, leading projects like that. 26% of the Canadian population were on Windows devices. I was trying to make some of the key workflows for the likes of Interac, who are the main money transfer platform that sit under the top 5 grandfather banks, conform to a BlackBerry 320 by 240 screen with a trackball. Back then, Canadians still trying to send money on a BlackBerry, figuring out tons of experiences. Toronto was amazing for the business experience. Traveled all around the US, New York, working in Houston, San Fran, Chicago was amazing for a few years. On purpose, got international experience, broadened the mind, hugely important. Came back to Ireland.
I'm only back from San Francisco a week. The difference in the buzz over there, it's incredible. Even though it's half empty. We were at a SaaS Star conference, and it was just everybody is so passionate about what they do,
what they're doing, and what
everybody talked about being customer obsessed.
Yeah.
Like it was the mantra for the week. Everybody, if you're not customer obsessed,
it's a different.
What are you doing?
It's a different feel. Absolutely. So then I was back home in 2015 onwards, and I started out working with startups. And I started mentoring startups and scale-ups in product and UX. And it just organically grew and bubbled up from there without any real effort my side. I was suddenly intertwined with multiple startups. I'm still involved with startups that I started partnering with back in 2015-16, and we're still figuring out client experiences and user experiences in their SaaS platforms that have scaled, got funding and grown, and they're still trying to figure stuff out. They're still trying to embed design deeper, UX research deeper to drive experiences and scale, because today UX is one of the key differentiators in selecting what platform a client is going to spend money on. Another subscription to the bell for the CFO, more money to spend on more platforms. My team needs it. There's 5 of them out there doing the same thing. SaaS is saturated, right? Verticals are just destroyed with optionality, right? So all doing the same thing, same dashboards, same everything. It's gotten extremely boring. But at the same time, good designs become easier for platforms to scale up that way and get good. But still, startup teams don't get starting out with design at the start, at the table, is the right way forward to avoid the pain later. Which has been verbatim my business has been built on the pain of startups, not realizing design, because that's where all my project and consulting work has come from since 2015 right up to the past few years.
It's interesting you say that, because hearing that, I'd always say the opposite of, like, startups are always going to be great at the design aspect and thinking of the customer first.
No.
While you're saying it's just get MVP out and then figure out the design aspects after.
Yeah, and sometimes, that's okay. I can be biased, of course, coming from a UX lens, research lens, and design lens, of course. But even if the considerations are bled in better at the start, at the table with, it's typically technical founders, fine, amazing, get involved, but they're not always design-led or UX or CX-led in terms of end-to-end journeys and how it's going to play out. And some of these startups I've mentored and worked with for over the past good few years have never done even one single bit of usability testing on a screen. And I'm hammering this communication at them the whole time. Get the workflows right at the start, avoid the scalability pains later, yada, yada, yada.
So we'll get into this right now. So if you were sitting, I'm thinking of a new product, what should I be going for? Design first mentality? Because I hear that a lot, and you go, it's that customer obsessed, be design focused. What is?
Well, whatever problem they're trying to solve or build on. Look, there's probably already 5 platforms doing it to some degree, to some level, and they're coming at a different angle. They got to figure out that angle. It's easy to get lost in the trenches in research. If you're going to if a founder's going to develop a partner program, I'm going to work with 5, 7 of these customer types. I'm going to buddy up with them. They're going to build my platform for me, which is how it should be. It's easy to get lost in there and get stuck in bias and approaches in terms of large-scale corporates right down to mid-size in terms of who's going to drive direction of the experience of the platform, the problem that's been solved that they need. Okay, but in there, regardless of the priority list that falls out of that research, if there's 10 key points, for MVP, typically you're going to focus on 3 or 4 of them that we know are the right ones, outcome-wise, to scale and to further the product. So is that what we're doing right now is not throwaway, we can build off it. But in there comes design, where design isn't always considered, the UX is not considered. It has become so easy today, much quicker and easier for startups to scale off their design, but they're not doing it. Because maybe of lack of education, understanding with the founders, perhaps. And also, whatever designer or consultant they might bring in at the start, baseline things get right. Understand what is the 2 or 3 key features we're focusing on, what are the end-to-end journeys, map them out, understand the key screens. There's going to be 10 error states and rescue paths off that journey. Let's do them later. Understood, fine. But in there, in the nest, is getting some of those key journeys right. Look, if a dashboard's been designed, it's done a million times at this stage in SaaS. it's over boring at this stage in terms of I could literally be blindfolded, logging up, signing up to another SaaS platform, doing the same thing, and I can probably point out with a blindfold what the dashboard looks like. We've gotten to that point in design, okay? So in there lies the opportunity for startups to differentiate, be better, drive better education, better onboarding, bring customers through some sort of deep related personalized experience that's much more of a micro slim experience, more personalized to their need to get set up and running in the platform quicker, which is what a lot of SaaS platforms kind of fall and fail to do.
What would be the wrong thing to do? Would that be, not having them kind of plug in, sign up, making it more difficult to sign up to your product? Is it the checkout period? What would be the kind of the basics?
Well, if you can imagine, if it's a fintech firm, they're signing up to a new platform to automate expenses, whatever it might be. They want a workflow presented to them immediately for their exact need, which is I need to upload a spreadsheet with a load of data. I need to see it in the UI and I need to click a button to automate it or send it through to wherever it needs to go to for the overall account, just an example. But it's something like that. Show me the workflow. Show me how easy it is to integrate, upload my data in literally 2 steps. And that's it. The speed, people don't have time, etc., yada, yada. They're doing a million other things in their jobs. And that's how personalized and slim the experiences need to get down to for actual personas coming into SaaS, new platforms. As I said, platforms are everywhere. We can do a search in Google and find 5 alternatives and we can try them out. But design is one of the winning aspects. Experience is one of the winning aspects. UX is one of the key differentiators now. And I've seen this with some startups over the years where they are losing deals, sometimes big, to some clients who are not agreeing to go forward in adopting the platform because they get direct feedback that your usability and your user experience is shit compared to the competitors we benchmarked. We're not going with you. Deal lost. And that is a conversation that's happening regularly.
100%. I hate using products that frustrate me after a couple of minutes. If I'm not going to use them and I get frustrated, the people that you're buying them for are going to get frustrated and move on. Yeah.
And so jumping into a dashboard, the usual kind of ghost town scenario, where do I start? What am I supposed to do first? How do I get value out of this tool? How am I going to expand in this platform? How am I going to integrate my 10 other layers of my business in here so I'm operational here in 5 minutes? Show me how. I want to get set up and running. I need to understand this. Give me simple language, dumbed down content, slim education, and guide me.
Well, nobody wants... I know, I can't remember the last time I read a manual. I've bought a product. Opened the box and went, I'll fix this. I'll try and fix it myself, or I'll go on YouTube and try and figure that out.
Or TFM.
Yeah. And I do that with product a lot. So if I'm using something, if I can't figure it out, it's probably too. If I can't see it visually on the screen when I've done it, it's probably going to be too. I'll move on to the next. That 5-second scroll, 10-second scroll thing.
Yeah.
So we educate ourselves a lot more. So I'm guessing that is driving that user dashboard experience, but also people understanding who their customers are in that as well.
In the background, if it's split out, from enterprise Eddie down to self-serve Susan, enterprise is a bigger solution, which needs way more hold-handing, salespeople involved, probably bigger architecture or implementation involved to get it up and running in the org. Totally understand that, but it should be a well-educated and well-communicated experience. So is that you're not jumping into some of the, I won't name brands, but bigger brand platforms you're jumping in where support comes back 2 weeks later and you're sitting there, I can't get my fucking org started here. Yeah. What's the deal? How do I even get started? Which is unfortunately still quite a common experience.
And is that, you look at the big tech, not big tech, but legacy businesses. We'll take banks as your atypical want to try and make a good customer experience.
Sure.
Yeah. So some of them do it okay. Some of the challenger banks probably do it a lot better.
Sure.
And their apps are a lot better and stuff. And we'll look at, the two in Ireland versus, say Revolut or an N24, whatever. And what is it a legacy restriction, would you say on bigger organizations versus these startups? Completely. Or is it just a capability thing, would you say?
It's all of that combined. if I look at some of my experience with some of the Northern American banks, how they tend and have tried to do it, and sometimes well, if I look at Waterloo, TD Bank have an innovation lab out there where an innovation team of product people like me and developers and whoever else sit out trying to invent the future and drip feed back in concepts ideation to headquarters in Toronto City, if you want to use that as an example, whereby, hey, we think this can work, let's drip feed this into the roadmap. So plug and play kind of stuff out here in the innovation lab to run faster. If that team is trapped in a bank, they're cut down in lack of accountability, responsibility, sign off, yada, 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 red tape everywhere, pain, people leave because they can't get done.
And that's the biggest restriction you would say is, as any large company that is looking to innovate and make better customer experiences, it's just that inability to kind of execute that innovation, isn't it?
Yeah, at speed, the speed that's required.
And then a startup is just like, let's run with that.
Exactly. Startup, small and nimble. I can run faster. I can get an MVP out here in 2 weeks to demonstrate this. It may not be fully coded or real data flowing through. We'll get that next month.
Yeah.
But speed is way quicker. But unfortunately, they need to drip feed and pull from a bank. Content, guidance, compliance, regulation, whatever other layers are involved that are going to slow pain and create pain. But they need to add and adopt it all in. For banks to run that fast, it's just about legacy systems, legacy workflow, legacy culture.
Yeah. And is that, we're not going to pick on any of that, is that just a culture thing, would you say? Or could they do it quicker if they really wanted to?
If leadership in these types of orgs really wanted to run faster and compete with upcoming neobanks, etc., they absolutely could work at building some sort of a innovation lab that's separate from the bank that can potentially run faster and create. Yes, absolutely. However, unfortunately, a lot of typical grandfather banks are stuck in the world of, hey, we can only consult with PwC and Deloitte and whoever else that are going to come in-house to try and deliver some of this stuff. Project starts at 2 million with a roadmap, ends up at 6 million, and still nothing's delivered.
Yeah, right. They don't get paid for delivery.
No, maybe not. No, but that's the stories that evolve and that you hear, right? That are common enough, I suppose. Yeah.
Especially core banking systems.
Yeah.
Like, because it's my question is because I was reading a CIO survey last night, and it's like 3/4 of the CIOs are talking about business strategy and evolving that, and the next 3 years are going to be key for innovation, redefining business strategy, all along those lines. Yeah. I found that weird. That
in what way?
Like 3 years is going to be so important. If they hadn't been thinking about that now,
it's always been important.
Yeah, like it's an ongoing process of, your product is here. If you don't innovate it and you don't listen to your customers and you're not finding out what their problem points are, you're just going to move on.
Yeah, completely. Optionality. They have options. They can move on to other products that are doing it better or is more suited to their workflow environment, how they want to go about completing that task or goal on a daily basis, behaviorally driven on their phone. They flick on, they want to do it in a particular way. People have choices. They can move on. And it's really important that the experience of that is drilled and nailed home to that behavioral flow. It's the same from an enterprise perspective. If we think about a nimble human on their phone going through those kind of tasks every day, and then you flip it to the enterprise, it's the same in there. They're stuck on spreadsheets maybe. They have particular workflows. We're trying to pull them out of spreadsheets into a UI to automate some of the workflows better. The UX researcher, whoever is running that piece of work, has to literally sit with that human or multiples of them daily, weekly, to look at their workflow, how they're hopping between tools and tasks and flows, and figuring out where their software sits as part of the stopgap or some area that they're going to automate, slim, or provide value on. One of the most hardest things is to get humans out of spreadsheets and to flip behavior. And, in a lot of workflows that we say we're going to automate in particular platforms, you'll automate to a point. You'll never automate the full end-to-end. Humans are humans. They'll default back to some part of a spreadsheet to complete some bit of the work, and then they'll hop in. So that's where the research is so key. Yeah. Where all those kind of workflows, features have to be totally nailed out, and reality checks are given to founders with a swift kick to say, hey, we can bring this so far to automate the end-to-end journey here. The final 20%, we're just not going to get away from it, or a different solution or add-on is needed, and we need to think about it much more deeply.
And is that why there's such an adoption of startup type culture in, say, the businesses you've worked in the innovation centres you've worked?
Yeah.
Like, the companies that are coming through with innovative products, is that the real driver why people adopt them? That nimblism, that ability to do things quicker. They're listening to their customers. They're looking at being product first.
Absolutely.
And whereas customers now living in that world, and that's what we want to buy.
Yeah, it's research first. It's research driven. It's deep persona driven in terms of key features and workflows, how they're presented, used, what the outcomes of those flows are, tasks daily, and how they marry and mesh those together with other workflows that human is doing. It's a huge understanding of that end to end. I mean, I'm talking very broad, high-level terms here. But it's all of that. And that's a continuous, weekly, daily, evolving workflow. It never ends.
Yeah.
You're constantly iterating and evolving and learning on those key features and flows.
And when did that... So I've worked in tech recruitment for 17 years. So I've suddenly heard from, went from project managers, BAs into product, type of evolution of people.
Yeah.
And then there was like UI, there was digital designers, there was like graphic designers, suddenly became UX, and that kind of evolved into its own role. When did you start seeing that evolution, say in Ireland? Because you were obviously traveling when from 2015, like in mainstream. When did the customer, that UX demand really come into it?
I remember probably one of the first times where UX, or will I even put it as wireframing, was considered to be needed or required from a leadership type individual, was back around 2008-9 when I started into some of that. I was trying to push it, of course, as a research flow and workflow to people who didn't even understand what user experience was. That's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone was being educated and learning as they went along. When it really became mainstream, probably 2012-13, when UX became a role. But unfortunately, the acronyms grew and around the role types and understanding of what the role is and responsibilities of the role and where it starts, stops. Still quite muddled today, probably, in a lot of different orgs in different ways.
Still quite young then, really. It's only like 10 years old, 9 years old.
It is quite young, but it's also starting to peter out a little bit too. So kind of like, if we look at the kind of curve around it, around that time, it was understood that a UX designer was going to design screens. Maybe with some research. My definition of a UX person is not a designer. UX people are not designers. They're researchers.
Yeah.
They bring concepts and ideation and they explore those with partner customers to a great depth until they figure out a solution to the problem and whether this feature or piece of software should exist or die. Do we go ahead or not? Are we really solving a problem? Is there monetization here?
Yeah.
Can it scale? Can it allow these type of enterprise customer type scale and grow? This is, it's either going to be a beast and we need to build it, or we kill it and move on. Because we validated that the proposition is not full, it's not going to scale the way we foresee, right?
Yeah.
So that's what UX research is. It's researching those journeys, features, flows, how they should function and live and exist within a piece of software or not. It's not about how pretty they look. It's not about the design system yet. It's not about any of those aspects. It's pure research driven. That's done through usability testing, quick mock-ups, it's running through multiple layers of workshop types with customer partners and trying to figure out how some of these experiences should flow.
The last thing before you go. Trends that you see in UX research product at the moment, what do you think is going to stick in the next kind of 6-12 months? What's the thing people should be looking out for? In
UX, obviously AI stuff.
Adapting that into your models?
Adapting that slightly in small incremental steps. It's going to be really important for UXers to self-educate, as it always is anyway. Like the likes of me, I listen to podcasts every night. I'm non-stop self-educating, as you should be. But it's going to be adopting and tinkering with AI, really. The usual stuff. Jump into ChatGPT, figure out how it can facilitate or guide your research. Can it? You don't fully trust it, but it'll give ideation back. And as it matures, ChatGPT 4 onwards, etc., it's going to mature. So, tinkering with stuff, tinkering with plugins in Figma, for example, that can automate and spit out wireframes that are prompt-based. Loads of stuff happening there. There's new tools coming out like Galileo. I'm still waiting to get my hands on a demo of that, as in actual automated product building tool based prompt-based. There's going to be loads more of this happening.
So it's adopting that technology.
It's adopting that technology into actual design creation and screen production in Figma that is so laborious for so many designers that spend hours and nights behind Figma. But that's all coming slowly.
Yeah.
It'll be slowly. It's not like, the UX role is going to completely diminish parts of the design, product design role. It's going to be incrementally supporting the role in small slivers where it's actually useful. It's not this big whale that maybe some design people and UX people are fearful of AI. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Mark Swaine, the UX guy. Thanks
no
a
worries, man. I hope you enjoyed this interview. At UXI, we thrive on educating UX product professionals as well as startup founders on the realities of execution in SaaS and new product creation. Thank you for listening to the official UX Institute podcast. We are so grateful you are listening to our content, and we will continue to bring you great guests and topics in UX research, product design, and product strategy. See you next time.